I'm Charlie Feldman. I'm Vice President of Writer-Publisher Relations at BMI. I know I don't sound like it, but I am sitting here in New York City, originally from Birmingham, Alabama, made my way up to Nashville, Tennessee, and then on to New York. It's a great city. I, in the 9th grade, met some guys and we started a band and we started doing cover songs, and by our junior year in high school, we were traveling throughout the Southeast, making good money back then on Fridays and Saturday nights. The band then went off to college, and we sort of morphed into a different band, but it was around there that I started figuring that I would try to write songs. And I was really a fan. I mean, in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, some incredible records were being recorded in rhythm and blues and then later rock. And I was watching who the players were there and who the principal people were making these records. And then I started going up there, and then eventually I moved up there for a semester, then went back to college and graduated, and then went to Nashville to pursue writing. Started hearing and meeting other writers, felt more confident about their songs than my own, started matching up their songs to record producers, networking, meeting people. I got hired by a music publishing company called Screen Gems Columbia Music, ended up becoming the VP and general manager of the Nashville office, and then in 1988 BMI hired me to come to work in New York. I wanted to get to the big city, and that was the way to do it, and I've been at BMI ever since. It's a great company to work.
You still play music?
At which to work. I still play music. I'll always play music. I even paint. My being is to be creative. BMI is a performing rights organization representing composers, songwriters, and music publishers. When their music is performed in a public setting, permission has to be granted in order for the user to use the music. Radio, television, internet, aerobic studios, hotels, anywhere where music's used in a public forum, instead of seeking out the creator or the publisher of the music that's being used, they come to an organization like BMI to license that music.
What is a public forum?
A public forum is anything other than listening to music sitting in your home, in a living room, or in the shower. That's private. But anywhere where you're using music to enhance an environment for commerce, I guess that would be the way to describe it. We call the people we represent and work with affiliates. They affiliate with our organization. We affiliate composers, songwriters, and music publishers. So we do represent a lot of big music publishers and a lot of boutique companies and small publishers, and a lot of our songwriters have their own publishing company. We represent upwards of 300,000 songwriters, composers, and music publishers. I'd say the stock answer is when you are about to have your music performed at radio, or if you're going to, as a band, go on TV and perform, that's a really good time to do it. However, when we find out about exciting new music that's creating a buzz, even before the creator of the music or the band that's creating the music, let me preface this by saying that there are a lot of people that don't create their own music. They perform music, but they don't write. We are specifically interested in affiliating writers. If the band is self-contained and writes their own songs, then we would want to work with them. If they don't write any songs, there's not a need for us to have a relationship with them in business. But we do affiliate a lot of bands before they get on radio, because we hear about them. They're showcasing in Austin at South by Southwest or at CMJ, and there's a buzz, or they're creating their own website, and we hear that they're packing, the club. So we want to represent them because it helps build the strength of our repertoire, which we can then go out and demand more revenues to license the repertoire. In this country, there are 3 performing rights societies. It's unique because in the world outside the U.S., most countries and territories have one society that represents not only the performing right, but the mechanical right. And now, I guess you can include the digital right, whatever that catchphrase is going to become. We all do the same thing, but we do it in different ways. We've created an incredible competition, especially ASCAP and BMI. We are the two largest. CSAC is privately owned. It does not operate under a governmental consent decree with the Department of Justice. BMI and ASCAP do operate under a consent decree through the Department of Justice, or vis-a-vis the Department of Justice. We just do what we do in different ways. We have different management styles. We have different teams of people that do the same thing. We have different ways of distributing money. We have our licensing teams. We're all different in the way we approach this. BMI was founded it opened its doors in 1940. ASCAP opened its doors in 1914. So they've been around longer than we have. We historically were number 2, but we have really been competitive, which the good news is that's great for the songwriter, composer, and publisher, because we've created this healthy competition in this country so that we keep each other on our toes to do much better jobs at representing our people. We compete to lower our overheads, which means that more monies that we collect are returned to our affiliates. I believe this past year, this was the first 4-quarter period of time where we collected more revenues than our main competitor. CSAC is a much smaller company. Good people work at all of these organizations. I want to be as positive as I can, knowing that we are fierce competitors. We all do good work because we're all collecting and fighting to collect revenues to turn around and pay. We operate not for profit, as does ASCAP. I think CSAC operates differently. I think that BMI historically has always prided itself on being a real service-driven company. That's not to say the others don't provide service, but I just think that we are very advanced technologically. I believe we were the first to be on the cutting edge of creating our website, and I believe, are the first to create certain innovations, something as little as creating distribution of royalties wirelessly, or through the wire, not wirelessly, through direct deposit. I don't think anybody else is getting money to their affiliates or their members as quickly as we are, because you can opt to set up an account with us where when you get your royalties, it goes straight into your bank account. That's just an example of an innovation that I think we're first at doing. I think mostly at radio, it's blanket. I'm not saying that there aren't some radio stations that might do per program, especially if they're a talk radio station that has minimal music usage. But I think in a general sense, radio is done in a blanket way, because they want to be able to have access. Any radio station that's playing music intensively, they want to have access certainly to our repertoire and ASCAPs, and probably CSACs. Some may have they may have more desire to have blanket license with BMI and ASCAP because we each represent millions of titles. I think that it's really important for a musician/songwriter. Remember, they need to be a songwriter to even want to interact with us. I think it's a great idea for them to meet the people who work at these companies and to learn a bit about the companies. I think in a general sense, I use that phrase a lot, but I think generally someone that's working on their career creatively, first of all, they may not have the kind of mindset to want to know all the details and the minutia of the inner workings of each of these companies. But I think they should meet the people and hear what the people have to say about their companies, and then through that experience make their decision where they want to be. Because, excuse me, when it's all said and done, both companies are doing great work and both companies are very competitive. One company does not pay more royalties than the other all the time, but from time to time, one company might outpay the other company in one pay period, and then the next pay period, the other company might outpay. So in a general sense, it's a pretty equitable situation. We're both being competitive to make sure our payments are competitive with the competitors' payments. So I think it boils down to who you feel comfortable with, who you feel maybe on a gut level as well as intellectually seems to be, excuse me, the right place for you. My disclaimer before I answer is that I'm not an attorney. I have not read the Copyright Act, but I can tell you that the copyright for music, for songs, has different rights attached to it. There's the mechanical right, which is for the sale of CDs. There's there are different sources of income, I should say, for having music used. The mechanical for the sale of CDs or whatever configuration. It's a little it's not outdated, but things are evolving. There are new rights now for digital delivery of music. There's the performance area, which is what BMI is. That's the area we operate in. There's the synchronization area, income derived from synchronizing music to the visual image. There's the right of music in print for songbooks and folios. And then there's the grand right, which is the right when music is interpreted into a plot and becomes music in musicals and that sort of setting, which that's a right that the publisher of the copyright controls. BMI, as I said, is involved with the specific right of public performance. Harry Fox Agency will only represent music publishers. If you're a writer and you've got your own publishing company, they will represent you. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm correct on everything I'm going to tell you. Things change, things are fluid. They constantly, or not constantly, but from time to time, they change their requirements. For instance, it used to be that they represented the music publisher, or they represented the work through the publisher for synchronization and mechanical collections. I believe they no longer deal in the synchronization area. We talked about synchronization earlier. You're a band, you write a song, you meet a movie director, he puts your song in the movie. There is a one-time fee to synchronize that piece of music in the movie or TV show, and it's a negotiable rate. It's whatever the market will bear. Harry Fox used to deal with that on behalf of the publisher. Now I believe they specifically deal with the licensing of the mechanical, which is licensing your music to be affixed on a CD or in any configuration for a rate of sale of that product. We have revolutionized our system. Historically, we have used at radio a sample, a scientific sample where we would go in and sample around 450,000 or 500,000 hours of radio, which is obviously not the total hours of all the total radio stations. We have sampled every radio station throughout the year, but each quarter we do this on a quarterly basis, and we distribute royalties on a quarterly basis. We would use a scientific sample, so when we would harvest a raw radio performance, then there was a scientific factor, and we still do this, but what we've done is we've incorporated some new technologies that enable us to harvest from the biggest revenue generating radio stations virtually every performance that's performed on their station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think things change, but a lot of things stay the same. If someone is compelled and driven to be creative and has the dream to do music, follow the dream. everybody's got an opinion out there. Everybody's going to tell you what they think. If you really know in your soul that this is what you want to do it. I will say that if you're 16 years old and you're in a situation where you can continue your formal education, that's something really good to do, because it's sort of a safety net to go through the process. I'm working with a young lady right now that's just gotten an offer from Virgin Records, and she just met with Jimmy Iovine last week in California. She's 16, and she stopped school in the 9th grade, and there was just no way she was going to continue her formal education. I mean, it's not for me to judge. I think if she can create some sort of homeschooling or some sort of auditing schooling, or, you know, via, what do they call it, where you take classes outside the classroom, I think that'd be a good thing for her to do. But she's on her way musically. Follow your dream. Most of the great talents that I've seen have not compromised, and they'll tell you not to compromise your talent. And if you know who you are, be that, and create from your inner being. If you're trying to copy somebody else, I think you're maybe behind. You know, you're in line, and you're competing with somebody who knows who they are, and they're not afraid to be themselves and be honest.